Let's create an elevation rendering. The first step is to save the file. Click on the raspberry icon, click Save, or use the Control key and the letter S on your keyboard. Locate your client's folder that you've set up under My Studio Designs, Clients, and name the file. This is being saved as a .mms or studio file. You'll notice that the file has changed the name up here also. The next step we're going to take is change the page setup. So we'll click on the raspberry icon, Page Setup, and change from Letter to Legal, keeping it in the landscape orientation. That gives us about 3 inches more drawing room. We'll go over to the Image Toolbox to the Elevations tab, and using this step system we'll create our rendering from the wall out. We'll start with a 9-foot ceiling template, and we'll use this A wall letter size. We want our wall to match the client's wall, which is 204 inches or 17 feet wide. We'll use the Dimension tool, click on it, drag it across, right-click, change dimensions, and type in 204. Now we can stretch out our wall along with the molding and the floor. Using that side center edit point, we'll drag it out until it's 204 inches wide. Delete the dimension line, and we can sub-select and delete the wall dimension, the ceiling height. Click on the group design and then click again with your cursor directly on the dimension line and delete. We can center this now and click away. It's important as you finish each action to click away, and that could be in a white area here or out in the gray space. If you're not using crown molding, you can click on that, sub-select, and delete. Back over to the Elevations tab to step number 2, we'll select our window. You'll notice we have categories for plain, casing, grills, and grills and casings on both doors and windows. And you can design pretty much any size window that you need. The designations refer to A for arch, AE for arched eyebrow, Q for quarter round, C for casement, DH for double hung, and so forth. We're going to select this double hung window, 9/9, drag it on, right click, change dimensions. We'll uncheck the Keep Aspect Ratio so that we can change both of the dimensions not in proportion to the original window. If we leave that checked and change only one dimension, the other dimension will change in proportion. Now we'll use our exclusive zoom tool to zoom in on the upper left-hand corner of the wall. Click, hold, and drag a box around the area you want to magnify. We'll select the Dimension tool to get our measurements for the placement of the window. Click and drag down. Right-click, change dimensions, and type in 10 inches. We'll also make this 15 inches from the side wall. And now we can position our window at the intersection of those two dimension lines. We'll leave those in place because we have a window on the other side of the room that's in exactly the same position. Zoom out, and we're ready to add color. So we'll go to Paint Color, and we can select either from the color cards or one of the colors here. Let's just open Cream and Caramel, for example. We can drag over this paint daub, click on the group design, click again to select just the wall, and then use the eyedropper tool to touch the color of the wall paint. We can also open our Benjamin Moore virtual fan deck. With both the studio program and the virtual fan deck open, we've clicked on our taskbar to show both windows side by side. The color we've selected is Benjamin Moore Bennington Gray. So we'll type in Bennington Gray in the search box. And here's the color that we need. Go over to your studio program, select the wall, select the eyedropper tool, and drag it over to touch the Benjamin Moore sample. Click OK, and you're done. Maximize your studio screen again and complete your drawing. We can continue on by adding our window treatment. Fabric shades. We're going to use a Roman shade and fill it with a woven wood. Drag that into place. Again, zoom in, drawing a box with your cursor around the upper part of the window. And we'll use the side center edit point to resize this. To add the woven wood fill, right click, Properties, Fill, and go to the Custom tab. We'll select an empty gray box, which is important to do for every fill that you add. Then click Load, and we'll go into our Clients folder. We've created a subfolder for fabrics and this woven wood fill. We'll select that. And now we need to edit this. This sample is quite large, a magnified version, and we want it to appear realistic in our drawing. So we're going to uncheck the Keep Aspect Ratio, type in 8, about a quarter of this works pretty well, and we'll notice the width and height of our shade over here. Our width is about 36 inches, so we want our width here to match that. So we'll type in 36, and we can add the name right here if we want. And click OK. We can also change the line color, again using the eyedropper tool under the line color icon. Select one of the darker shades in the shade. Click OK. And zoom out again. We'll go back over to elevations now, skipping over hard treatments where you can find blind shades and shutters, and specialty for awnings, French doors, and sunbursts. We'll go directly to the draperies category. This is set up according to the heading style. We're going to select a Europleat panel. You'll notice that we have single width with bullion, 1.5 width. Look for that designation 112 in parentheses. It's also available with tassels in both single and 1.5 widths. And then other different styles with Europleat heading. We're going to select this one with tassels, 1.5 width, so we'll drag that over and position it. The next step before we ungroup or do anything is to add a finish to the hardware. We'll right click, Image Components, Hardware, and then select Fill. From here we can go to our Texture tab and add a wood finish, or we could add a color from the pattern or a custom finish. Click OK and OK. Because the hardware is protected from filling when we select the entire group design, we can go ahead and add our fabric without worrying about changing the finish on the hardware. Right click, Properties, Fill, go to the Custom tab, make sure you select a clean gray box, click Load, and here is the fabric that we have selected from the Eastern Accents collection we're using. We don't have to edit this one because it's a solid color. Click OK, and we can also change the line color from black to a color that's a little closer to the fabric itself. Go to Custom and select a darker shade. Now we're ready to delete our tassels if we're not planning to use those, lengthen our panels, and reposition them. Let's zoom in on the top part of the treatment, put our cursor directly on the tassels, click, hold down the Shift key and select the other tassels, and then hit delete. We can ungroup this now and ungroup the hardware. Let's zoom out to see where we can position these now. We'll move our panel over, and we want the panel to be even with the top of the other panel, so we'll hold down our Shift key and select Align Top. Move the rings over, get those aligned with our pleats. Shorten up the pole a bit and move the finial in. We'll align the rings again. And now we need to address the length of the panels, so we'll use the Shift key to select both the left and the right panel and the center edit point to drag them down to just touching the floor. Once we have all this in place and to our liking, I think I'm going to lengthen our shade a bit so that it's level with the top of the panels. Then we can use our cursor to lasso the entire window treatment. So we start at the top left outside the crown molding, across and down, duplicate, and we'll position this over here. Let's zoom in. We want our panels to be aligned perfectly. So let's move our dimension line over here, and we'll make sure that it's lined up with our window, and it looks like it is pretty well there. That looks good. And we can delete the dimension lines now. Go back over here, zoom in, delete, and there's one hiding right under here. Let's see if I can grab it. There it is, and delete. And right over here, delete. So it's very important to use those zoom tools for accurate placement and to find things such as the dimension lines that are behind the treatments. Now we're going to do some importing of images, some accessories and a rug, and we'll use the Import Image button that's right here on the Quick Access toolbar, or you can select it from the Drawing Tools area. Click on it, click again in the workspace near where you want to position your image, and we're going to select the rug. Here's the original sample of the rug in the horizontal view, and this is the perspective view that we've created using Photoshop. You cannot alter images that you've imported in the Studio program. Only Studio images can be altered, skewed, or reshaped, such as this. So we'll bring this in, let's click open, and we'll resize it. I'm going to make this about 217 inches wide, and that would be measured at the widest point down here, and about 60 inches tall, so that it conforms with the perspective view on our floor. The boards have, you can see right here, there are the boards in that perspective view. So let's position this on the wall. Hold down the Shift key, select the group design of the wall, and use Align Center. And we want to send this to the back so that our draperies are on top of the rug. So again, click on the wall as you hold down the Shift key. So both the rug and the wall are selected, and use the Send to Back button. And now the draperies are resting on the rug. We're also going to import a table and a lamp for next to our bed. So again, import image, click again in the workspace, and we have created two views of this night table, a left and a right. Click open, and Studio has a knockout feature. We can erase this white background that we saved from the vendor's website by going into Properties, Fill, and you can see the default setting of 10% with the white background is knocked out. Most of it. We'll just slide it over a little bit more to get rid of that remaining white, and click OK. We also need to resize this. And I'm just going to put here for now. We'll just position it later when we get our bed. And we'll do the same thing with the right table. Start out, make this the same size. So use the Shift key, select the one that you want to match, and use same size. And we can also align the tops while we're at it, and then delete the background. Right click, Properties, Fill, slide that transparency bar over, and click OK. We also have a lamp that we're going to use, and we'll do the same thing. This is 26.5, and you'll notice the little edit points on this one are exactly at the height and width. So we can go by these numbers up here or under Change Dimensions. A lot of times the dimensions given are the entire photo, which could include some of the white background, not necessarily the size of the image that we're working with. So it's better to use your dimension tool to get an exact measurement if that is the case. So this lamp is 26.5 inches high. The Keep Aspect Ratio box is checked, so the width will change in proportion to the original. And then we'll also delete our background. Click OK. Get that positioned and duplicate. So once you have it all done, all you have to do is duplicate it and then zoom in to make sure that it's resting on top of the table. Now we're ready for our bed. We're going to go into the Rooms category, and from the Bedroom module, which is a separate module, we're going to select an upholstered headboard. Slide down until we get to the tufted one that we want. This is in alphabetical order, and this is the bed we've selected. And you'll notice as I'm dragging this over, you'll see the little dotted outline, and this helps us position it on the wall. Notice the legs, and I'm going to position those just slightly in front of the baseboard. We may need to have our table and lamp moved over. To do that, we can lasso them by going outside the workspace and just circling the lamp and the table. We can move them over slightly to where they would be in the room, and do the same thing on this side. Click, hold, and drag, and you can use your nudge button, or you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard if you're just going a short distance. I think right about there looks good. Maybe over a little bit farther. And again, we can align these. Align the lamps and align the tables. And let's align the bed while we're at it. Hold down the Shift key, select the bed, then select the wall, align center. And now maybe we need to move this over a little bit more. So we'll nudge that over. Next, I'd like to show you how we acquire, save, and crop fabrics to use in our studio program. This is the Beacon Hill website. Right now we're viewing the fabric one-to-one, a close-up view. We want to view the repeat, so we'll select this one, and you can see how we can get a larger version of this with several repeats. It has a 15.5-inch vertical repeat, that's what we're interested in here, and we can simply right-click, Save Image As, and we need to save this in our clients folder, so we'll go to My Studio Designs, Clients, into the Fabrics folder. And we want to make a note of the name of this and the repeat. It's called Wrought-Work 1550. So down here below we can save the SKU number if we want or not. And we type in 15.5V to indicate the vertical repeat of this fabric, which is very important to get a realistic representation of it in Studio. Another fabric that we're planning to use is from the Eastern Accents. This is that Cerico gold that we put in our window treatment. And I want to bring this to your attention because it's very important when you're saving fabrics to note any shadowing, blemishes, reflections, wrinkles, and discoloration. From the top of this to the bottom of this, it's much darker here than it is here. And this is also not right clickable. So we would use a screen capture tool. The snipping tool is found in the Microsoft products. If you have a Mac, you can use the screen capture tool there, which is Command-Shift-4. Position your cursor in an area that is pretty much the same color. That's what we're looking for. We don't want it to be too dark or too light, and we also don't want any lines, blemishes, wrinkles, spots, or whatever. So I'm just going to take a piece about this big, just where, right here. Because it's a solid, we don't have to worry too much about anything like a repeat. And then click File, Save As. And of course we would go back into My Studio Designs, Documents, Client folder, and Fabrics. Name the fabric, and you can see I've already done that, Cerico Gold, and save it. So when you see a fabric such as this that is not right clickable, you can use a screen capture tool to save it. We're ready now to add the rest of our bedding and our fabrics to the bedding. From the Rooms tab in Bedroom Module, we'll select a bed skirt. I'm looking for a pleated skirt. This one will work for me. And there are two different views, the angled view and the straight-on view, depending on the bed that you've selected. Get that into position. And we'll add our fabric. Right-click, Properties, Fill, Custom, Empty Gray Box, Load. Go to our Clients folder where we save the fabrics. We'll click on the View menu, and this is the fabric that I'm planning to use for both the bed skirt and some pillow shams. It has an 8.5-inch vertical repeat. I've already turned this. It's a railroaded fabric, so now it's an 8.5-inch horizontal fabric repeat. So we're going to uncheck the Keep Aspect Ratio, type in 8.5, and the height is determined by the height of the tallest image that you're filling. My bed skirt is about 18 inches, so this height works fine. If it were a taller image, say a drapery panel that was 95 inches, I would type 95 in here. This applies just to the stripe. Click OK, and OK again. Next we'll get a coverlet for the bed. I'm going to do a duvet cover. And I'm just looking for a plain one. Again, the straight-on view or the angled view. Get that into position and fill that. Right click, Properties, Fill, Custom, New Gray Box, Load. And here is the fabric we're using for the duvet cover, which has a 28-inch vertical repeat. So we'll type in 28. We will leave the Keep Aspect Ratio box checked so the width changes in proportion to the original. Click OK and OK. You'll notice the highlights and shadowing that come with the coverlet. In this case, it's a little too bright, so we're going to go into Image Components, double click where you see that plus sign to locate the highlight. Click Fill, and instead of 41, we'll make it about half that, maybe about 20. Click OK and OK again. It just makes it a little bit softer. Let's zoom in on our headboard, which is going to be about the same color as one of the colors in here. We haven't really selected a fabric yet, and we're just going to make it a tan color. So we're using the eyedropper tool to touch one of the colors in our Langdon print. And make sure we select the headboard. There we go. And that also has image components, headboard, and the little ties we're going to make black. So we go under Pattern for this and use the down arrow on Background. Click OK and OK. We'll zoom out again, and now we're ready for our pillows. Going to use some flanged shams. So we'll drag that on. Right click, Properties, Fill. This is going to be the same stripe as the bed skirt. It's already loaded, so we just have to select it. Click OK and duplicate it. Once you have completed your design, you can add specifications pages for your installer or your workroom. Under the Home tab, under Add New Page, select the down arrow and create a copy of the page. This is the elevations page that we want. Click OK. And if we were doing a kitchen or a floor plan, we would keep these tabs down here, but we're not, so we're going to remove them. Right click, Remove, right click, Remove, Remove. And here is the new page. We can then decide if we're going to use this page for our installer. We could delete the bedding and the night tables and the rug and just leave the draperies here, which we can do now, and I'll show you what that will look like. By adding dimension lines, we can indicate to the installer the width of the rod that we want cut down, the height at which we want it installed, and the installer has also agreed to hang the artwork for us. So using the text box right here under the drawing tools, we can create some information here that will be helpful to the installer. We can also create a workroom specs page for the fabrication of the draperies and the bedding. Again, using the text box and the call-out tools and the little swatches, which can be found on the Elevations tab under Paint and Color, Color Cards. The very last category here, Color Cards. The little swatch is right here at the very top. So you can drag that on and fill it, usually with the fabric in a larger version so that the client, or in this case the workroom, can see a larger version of the pattern. We've also provided the repeats so that the workroom can figure the yardage, as well as a description of the panels, the flange shams, and the duvet cover. Here's the finished rendering that we will present to the client. You'll notice that we've used a side wall here for an upholstered chair that they want recovered with a little leopard throw and another piece of art. We've also added some shadowing to give it a little more depth and changed out the pillows a little bit, some different styles to make it a little more interesting. Once the rendering is complete and you want to email this to your client, this is especially good when you're doing virtual design, long distance, click on the raspberry icon and click Export. This will convert your rendering into a JPEG version. You can see the file designation down here. The client cannot open a studio or .mms file, but the client can open an image file via email. So we would call this guest bedroom, whatever you want to name it, and click Save. So you'll notice we originally called it .mms. This is a JPEG, so it's being called guestbedroom.jpg. And we would usually select medium for the output quality. We can then open the client's folder again. You'll see we have 3 renderings: the guest bedroom that we've been working on, the guest bath, and a living room. We also have the 2 folders that contain the accessories and the fabrics. We cannot see the JPEG version of our rendering unless we go down here and click on All Files. So it's just displaying right now the MMS file, but here is the JPEG version. And if we like, we can add this to our logo template, which we will do on another page. So we're going to add a new page, Elevations, OK. From the Custom tab, we've saved our logo template. And we're going to just make this into a landscape letter size so we can change our page setup back to letter. Position this and use the Import Image button to select the guest bedroom JPEG version of our rendering. And why do we do this? So that we don't have to change the drawing scale. If we just copied and pasted the elevation rendering in here, we'd have to change the drawing scale or re-edit the fabrics. We hold down the Shift key and use the corner edit point to resize the image. And I'll bring my logo template to the front now. And you can add your copyright if you like, and get that positioned perfectly. And now it's ready to send to the client. For an in-depth look at how to create an elevation rendering, design on a photo, create a space plan or a storyboard, please view the other segments in the tutorial.